Hi everyone, it's Nightfighter22 here. Today I'm just going to show you guys a very good game which I had recently on chess.com. Just thought I'd make a video about it this afternoon. And the guy I was playing was from the United States of America, rated 1123, and I was rated 1118. So this was a pretty equal match. It's played in 10-minute time control, so rapid kind of play. And I was playing white, and I start off with the King's Gambit opening. And my opponent already makes a blunder on move 2, but he does get around his blunder quite easily. He just plays knight e7, and this allows me to take here, but now he can play his knight round to g6, attacking my pawn. So I play knight to f3 to defend that, and now he plays a knight down to h4. Now, obviously, this knight's on the rim of the board. I don't want to trade it off because I've got a knight in the center. If knight takes here, then we have queen h4 check, g3, and then queen takes e4 check, and that wins the rook in the corner. So I don't want to go down that route. So I play pawn to g3, maybe fianchettoing on this bishop. And one thing you've got to remember in the King's Gambit is often you don't castle kingside, especially in the exchange variation, where black does usually have this pawn on f5. He sacrificed it for the moment, but usually you have to bear in mind you have to be prepared to get all these pieces out, castle quite late in the game, sometimes as late as move 15. Just because it takes you all the time to attack and get those pieces out. Okay, so my opponent plays bishop e7. I do not take the knight here because that would lead to bishop takes h5. My opponent would have a lot of compensation for the piece. And I now play d4. And if we just flip the board over a minute here, you can really see that I now have the central control. So instead of taking his knight and being 2 pawns ahead of material, I am now staking my central control. Okay, so he obviously doesn't want to lose his knight, so he plays knight takes f3 and queen takes f3. Now, as that knight was giving protection to my king side, I don't worry about it too much because the h4 squared is covered by this g3 pawn for now. Okay, so he plays his knight up to c6. I don't worry about this threat of taking first, so I just play bishop c4. And this is where the actual attack starts on move 8. Okay, so I'm now pointing at the f7 square. And he plays f6 to defend that, and I thought I might as well just solidify and, break this pawn chain. But now this bishop is very strong. But that was a move I didn't see, which was knight a5, which is, in my opinion, very good. There's not many squares the bishop can go to. The bishop doesn't want to go here because of, c6, it gets ugly. So it does pull the bishop back to d3. But my attack is starting, and if you guys stick with this, you'll see an amazing attack within the next couple moves. Okay, so he just castles here. And I now capture the pawn on f6, opening up lines around his king. And here I play my queen up to e5, just for one simple reason. I'm now threatening e5, not only threatening to attack the rook and, have this huge amount of space coming into the king side, but I'll also be threatening queen takes f7 check. And with the rook coming onto this open f-file, that is not going to be nice. So he plays d6 here, but this is a mistake because I can still play e5 anyway. And here's a good look at the position. He doesn't want to play rook e6 or anything, because queen takes h5, rook f8, and then you got this rook coming in for checkmate. So he sacrifices his rook in return for the bishop, and now I've got a very powerful queen sitting on g6. Okay, so he takes on e5 now. It's fine. I've got good compensation. I've got his king opens up. I now play bishop e3. One reason to defend the pawn. Other reason, my king is really exposed. It's got open file, the e file, and also the open f file, and I've got to be careful. It's okay for now because his rook is not in the game, and neither is his knight, their main queenside pieces. His bishop cannot come out to any useful attacking squares, because most of my pieces are on the dark squares, but I still need to be wary of it. Also with this pawn taking, I don't want the d file to open up, which is why I take back with my bishop, and I'm also threatening checkmate again here on this g7 pawn. Okay, so my opponent plays bishop to f8 now, and I just play knight e2, preparing to castle queenside. But my opponent now plays bishop e7 check, not only defending the pawn, but saying, no, I want you to not castle. But I can play knight up to e4. It does look like an ugly pin, but really this pin is an asset as opposed to a liability. Okay, so my opponent plays knight e4, and I just castle here, taking off all the squares. His bishop's still protecting e3, so there's no really squares that this knight can go to. And now my opponent makes a mistake. He plays pawn to a5. So if I'm just going to do a Martogelic here, it is white to move and play a killer move. If you wish, you can pause this video and you can try to find the winning move that I played in this position. Okay, so the winning move which I found is knight f6 check. And this is a winning move for two reasons. One, because it gives check to the king. Basically, you can't take with your pawn here. If the king doesn't take this knight, the only square for the king to go to is h8, and then you've got queen to h7. So, my opponent didn't want to go down that line. Also, you can't take with the pawn because obviously it's pinned. So, you kind of have to take with the queen and sacrifice your queen here. And the best thing is this pawn is still pinned, so I don't lose my bishop. Now from here, I play rook a6, and I thought about this move for quite a long time, but I came up with this one, and hoped my opponent would fall to a trap. I came up with rook to f1, just defending that bishop, just because if rook takes bishop, then he loses his rook, and obviously his pawn is still pinned. But my opponent did fall for the trap. He played knight e3, forking the two rooks, and this is a trap because I can now play rook to d8, and he can either take my rook and lose the game, or he can just lose this bishop here. But unfortunately, he did take my rook. And there's a very nice checkmate line, which is forced, if you guys would like to find it. Okay, the move is rook to f7 check, and the king has to take the rook here. There's no squares for the king to go to. And the king has to take the rook here, and then it's really simple. Queen takes g7 check, because obviously that pawn is unpinned, so I don't want to lose the bishop. The king must go to e8, and queen to e7 is checkmate. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that video very much. I've been Nugbytes22. I hope you guys enjoy your chess in the future, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe. I've got a lot more good videos soon, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, guys.